If you enjoy original HFY stories where humanity is never quite as helpless as it looks, subscribe to the channel. Because this one starts with a little girl standing alone in the ruins of a human colony, and ends with an alien general discovering why the galaxy once made a rule about human children. General Calverin had seen entire cities burn. He had watched moons crack under orbital fire. He had stood on the bridge of his flagship while enemy fleets disappeared beneath the guns of his battle group. None of it prepared him for the little girl. She was standing in the middle of a dead city. No soldiers. No weapons. No adults. Just one child, standing beneath a sky filled with smoke. General Verin stared at the image on his tactical screen. Zoom in. The sensor officer hesitated. General, we've already identified her as human. I can see that. Zoom in. The image sharpened. The girl couldn't have been more than 8 years old. Maybe 9. She wore a torn gray jacket that was several sizes too large for her. One sleeve was burned almost completely away. Her face was dirty. There was a thin cut across her left cheek. But she wasn't crying. That was what bothered Verin. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't running. She wasn't even looking at the soldiers surrounding her. She was looking at the sky. Verin leaned closer to the display. Where are the others? The sensor officer swallowed. We've scanned the entire settlement. And nothing alive. Verin's expression hardened. Nothing. Nothing human, General. The bridge became strangely quiet. Outside the viewport, the remains of the human colony of Mercy Ridge burned across the valley. Verin's invasion fleet had arrived less than an hour earlier. The humans had resisted for 12 minutes. 12. Their orbital defenses were gone in 4. Their communications array collapsed in 7. Their military garrison surrendered after 11. The final resistance ended 1 minute later. Verin had expected soldiers. Instead, there was a child. Send a retrieval unit. The sensor officer looked at him. Alive. Verin slowly turned. Did I say anything about killing her? No, General. Then why are you asking? The officer immediately lowered his eyes. Verin returned his attention to the screen. The little girl had finally moved. She walked toward the center of the ruined street. Then she stopped beside a collapsed vehicle. She reached into the wreckage. Verin watched. The girl's small hand disappeared beneath a sheet of twisted metal. She pulled something out. It was a little red toy rocket. Verin frowned. What is that? No weapon signature. Obviously. The girl held the toy against her chest. Then she looked directly toward the surveillance drone. Straight into the camera. Verin froze. How does she know we're watching? Nobody answered. The girl's lips moved. The translator struggled for a second. Then the words appeared on Verin's display. You're late. Verin stared at the screen. The sensor officer looked at him. General. Verin stood. Bring her aboard. The officer looked confused. Sir, should we bring a medical team? Yes. Security. Heavy security. The officer nodded. Then Verin added one more sentence. And bring a linguist. The officer looked confused. She speaks standard galactic. I know. Verin stared at the child. That's what concerns me. 3 minutes later, the retrieval shuttle descended through the smoke. Verin watched from the bridge as it landed beside the ruined street. 6 armored soldiers stepped out. The girl didn't move. They approached carefully. One soldier raised his weapon. Verin immediately snapped. Lower it. The soldier obeyed. The girl looked at them. Then she looked at the sky again. One of the soldiers extended a hand. Come with us. The girl stared at him. Where? To our ship. Why? The soldier glanced toward the shuttle. Because your city is gone. The girl's expression changed. Not fear. Something closer to disappointment. I know. The soldier looked back at the shuttle. Then at the child. What's your name? She hugged the toy rocket tighter. Emily. Emily what? Emily Carter. The soldier touched his communicator. General, we have the child. Emily looked up. Are you the general? The soldier went still. Why? Because my dad said generals always send other people to do the dangerous parts. Two soldiers looked at each other. One nearly smiled. The other didn't. The message reached Varen seconds later. He heard every word. Bring her aboard. The soldier tried again. This time Emily didn't resist. She climbed into the shuttle. And as the doors closed, she whispered something the soldiers didn't hear. But the shuttle microphones did. Please hurry. Varen listened to the recording twice. Then 3 times. He didn't know why. He had conquered 47 worlds. He had broken rebellions before they could become wars. He had learned long ago that humans were not special. They were resilient, yes. Resourceful. Aggressive when cornered. But they were still one young species among thousands. They had no ancient empire. No galaxy-spanning technology. No biological weapons. No psychic abilities. No immortal ruling class. Humanity was young. Fragile. And extremely stubborn. That was why Varen had been chosen to destroy them. He hadn't expected a child to complicate the operation. Emily Carter was taken to the medical deck. The doctors found dehydration, bruising, minor burns and exhaustion. Nothing life-threatening. She refused sedation. She refused food. She refused to answer most questions. But when General Varen entered the room, she immediately looked at him. Varen stood in the doorway. Emily was sitting on the medical bed with the little red rocket beside her. She stared at his armor. Then his face. Then the 2 ceremonial blades at his waist. You're the general. Varen nodded. General Kale Varen. Emily studied him. You're an alien. Varen blinked. His translator chirped softly. Yes. You're ugly. The medical technician nearly dropped a scanner. Varen stared at the child. Emily stared back. Then Varen did something his officers had never seen him do. He laughed. It wasn't a loud laugh. It was short. Almost surprised. Emily's expression softened slightly. Varen pulled a chair closer. Your people call me ugly? No. Then why do you? Emily shrugged. My dad said being scared of something doesn't mean you have to pretend it's pretty. Varen looked at her. Your father was a soldier. No. Then what was he? A teacher. Varen glanced at the toy rocket. Did they build that? Emily shook her head. My dad gave it to me. Why? Because I wanted to be a pilot. Varen sat back. You still do? Emily's eyes moved toward the viewport. Beyond the glass, his enormous warship hung above the planet. Yeah. Varen followed her gaze. You understand that my fleet destroyed this world? Emily didn't answer. Your parents are dead because of my orders. Still nothing. Varen expected anger. Instead, Emily asked a question. Did you see them? Varen's expression changed. No. Then you don't know they're dead. Emily. You didn't see them. Varen leaned forward. Our orbital scans detected no survivors. That's not what I asked. The room went silent. Varen looked at the child. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shaking. She was simply waiting for an answer. No, he finally said. I didn't see them. Emily nodded. Then they're not dead. Varen almost corrected her. He didn't. Instead, he asked. Why were you alone? Emily looked at the floor. My dad put me in the basement. When? Before the attack. Why? He said if the alarm started, I wasn't supposed to come out until he told me. Varen frowned. And you obeyed? Emily nodded. Even when you heard the fighting? A pause. Yes. Even when the building collapsed? Yes. Why? Emily looked at him. Because my dad told me to. Varen stared at her. There was something deeply unsettling about that answer. Not because it was brave. Because it was ordinary. The child wasn't trying to be a hero. She had simply trusted her father. Varen stood. Get some rest. Emily grabbed his attention before he reached the door. General. He turned. Yes. Are you going to kill me? Varen looked at her. No. Why? He thought about the answer. Because you're a child. Emily frowned. My dad said that doesn't matter. Varen stopped. What did he say? Emily looked at the toy rocket. He said humans don't get to be dangerous because they're adults. Varen waited. She continued. Sometimes we're dangerous because someone we love is in trouble. For the first time that day, General Kale Varen felt something close to unease. He left the room. And immediately ordered his intelligence officers to search the planet again. They found nothing. No hidden shelters, no military bunkers. No surviving human troops. Nothing. Then, 4 hours after the invasion, the first signal appeared. It wasn't a distress call. It wasn't a military transmission. It wasn't even directed toward Varen's fleet. It came from deep beneath the planet. A tiny burst of electromagnetic energy. 3 seconds long. Then silence. Varen ordered the signal isolated. His communications officers spent 20 minutes analyzing it. Finally, one of them entered the bridge. General. What? We found something. The officer placed a projection on the command table. A sequence of numbers appeared. Varen recognized it immediately. Coordinates. Where? The officer expanded the map. The coordinates were beneath Mercy Ridge. Varen's eyes narrowed. That's where the child was found. Yes. Scan again. We already did. Then scan harder. The officers did. The result was the same. Nothing. No bunker. No life signs. No power source. No structure large enough to produce the transmission. Varen stared at the map. Then Emily's words returned to him. You didn't see them. He turned. Bring the girl. Emily arrived 10 minutes later. She was carrying the red toy rocket. Varen showed her the coordinates. Her expression changed. You know this place? Emily nodded. That's where my dad worked. Varen looked at his officers. Your father worked underground. Emily nodded. Sometimes. What was he doing? He said it was boring. Varen almost smiled. Humans have an interesting definition of boring. Emily pointed at the map. That's not where his office was. Varen froze. What? Emily touched another location. Here. The coordinates changed. A new location appeared. 6 kilometers away. Varen stared. How do you know? Emily shrugged. My dad took me there once. What was there? Nothing. Nothing. Just a door. Varen looked at the intelligence officers. Take us there. The shuttle descended into the ruins. Emily sat beside Varen. For the first time, he noticed something strange. She wasn't looking at the destroyed city. She was looking at the sky. Constantly. Emily. Yeah. Who are you expecting? She looked at him. I don't know. But you said someone was coming. I said my parents said someone would come. Who? Emily hesitated. Then she whispered. The Guardians. Varen's translator paused. Who are the Guardians? Emily shook her head. My dad never told me. The shuttle landed. They walked through the ruins. Emily led the way. She moved through collapsed buildings with surprising confidence. Eventually she stopped. Varen looked around. There was nothing there. Just broken concrete. Burned trees. A collapsed road. Here. Emily nodded. Under there. Varen signaled his soldiers. They moved the debris. 10 minutes later, they found a door. It was small. Plain. Human-made. But Varen knew immediately that it was not ordinary. His scanners couldn't penetrate it. His cutting tools couldn't mark it. His military-grade explosives didn't even scratch the surface. Emily walked forward. Don't. Varen caught her arm. She looked at him. My dad opened it? How? With me. Varen released her. Emily placed one hand against the door. Nothing happened. Then she took the little red rocket from her pocket. She pressed it against the metal. The door opened. Every alien soldier raised a weapon. Varen didn't. He was too stunned. Inside was a corridor. Dark. Silent. At the end was a small room. Emily walked inside. Varen followed. There were no weapons. No soldiers. No computers. Just photographs. Hundreds of them. Human families. Children. Teachers. Doctors. Engineers. Farmers. Pilots. People laughing. People eating. People holding babies. People standing beside spaceships. Varen stared. What is this? Emily looked around. My dad called it the memory room. Why? So nobody forgets what we're protecting. Varen looked at the photographs again. Then the lights came on. A voice filled the chamber. Human. Male. Calm. Hello, Emily. Emily froze. Varen looked at her. The voice continued. If you're hearing this, then something has gone wrong. Emily's eyes widened. Dad. Varen felt something tighten in his chest. The recording continued. Emily, if I'm not there, I need you to listen carefully. The child stepped closer. You are not alone. Varen looked toward his officers. The recording continued. The people who come after us may look terrifying. They may have ships bigger than cities. They may have weapons we've never seen. Varen's expression hardened. But don't make the mistake of thinking that makes them stronger. The room became silent. Emily looked at Varen. Varen stared back. Then the voice said something that changed everything. Because they don't know what we know. The floor began to vibrate. Varen reached for his weapon. What's happening? Emily shook her head. I don't know. The room began opening. The wall separated. The ceiling disappeared. And beneath them, was an enormous chamber. Varen stepped forward. His breath caught. Thousands of small lights came alive. Then thousands more. Then millions. The chamber was so enormous that his eyes couldn't find the opposite wall. Varen's tactical systems began screaming warnings. General. The officer's voice trembled. General, we're detecting power. How much? The officer looked at the numbers. His face went pale. More than our flagship. Varen looked at Emily. She was staring downward. Emily. She didn't answer. Emily, what is this? She shook her head. I don't know. Then something moved. Deep beneath the chamber. A shape emerged from darkness. Then another. Then another. Varen slowly understood. These weren't buildings. They weren't machines. They were ships. Human ships. Thousands of them. Hidden beneath the planet. Not military cruisers. Not cargo vessels. Not transports. Warships. Massive warships. Silent. Ancient. Waiting. Varen's communications officer whispered. General, we're receiving a transmission. From where? The officer looked terrified. From the ships. Varen turned toward the chamber. A single line appeared on his display. Identity confirmed. Then another. Child of Carter family. Authorization accepted. Varen's eyes moved toward Emily. Emily. She was crying now. Not because she was afraid. Because she finally understood. Her father had known. Her mother had known. They hadn't simply been hiding from the invasion. They had been preparing for something much larger. Varen reached for the communication system. Identify yourselves. A voice answered. Human. Female. Cold. Guardian network active. Varen's blood ran cold. Who is your commander? There was a brief silence. Then the answer came. Humanity. Varen looked at Emily. She was staring at the ships. How many? The communication officer checked. Then checked again. General. How many? 28,000. Silence. Varen's fleet had nearly 6,000 ships. He had considered that enough to conquer an entire sector. 28,000 human warships were sleeping beneath one colony. And then the system spoke again. Additional Guardian fleets detected. Varen turned. Where? The officer's hands trembled over the console. Everywhere. The tactical display expanded. Red dots appeared. Earth. Mars. The Moon. Asteroid belts. Outer colonies. Abandoned stations. Even places Varen's intelligence service had classified as empty. Thousands of locations. Millions of ships. Varen couldn't speak. Emily wiped her eyes. Then she looked at him. General. Varen finally managed to answer. Yes. My dad said I should ask you something if the Guardians woke up. Varen stared at her. What? Emily looked toward the ceiling. Then she smiled. A small smile. Almost relieved. He said to ask if you're here to hurt us. Varen looked at the enormous fleet beneath the planet. He looked at the child. Then he looked at the soldiers who had come to conquer Earth. Every weapon suddenly felt very small. No. Emily waited. Varen slowly removed his ceremonial sidearm. He placed it on the floor. Then he lowered himself to one knee. His soldiers stared. Their general had never knelt before another species. Not once. Varen looked Emily directly in the eyes. No, Emily Carter. He swallowed. We are not here to hurt you. Emily looked at him for a long moment. Then she asked the question that Varen would remember for the rest of his life. Then why did you come? Varen had no answer. Because the truth was simple. His empire had believed humanity was weak. They had studied Earth's population. They had calculated its military strength. They had measured its economy. They had catalogued its weapons. They had predicted human behavior. And they had missed the one thing that mattered. Humans didn't build their strongest weapons for themselves, they built them for the people who might come after them. Their fathers built shelters for their children. Their mothers hid supplies beneath floors. Their engineers buried machines beneath cities. Their soldiers created plans they knew they might never live to see completed. Humanity didn't think in decades. It thought in generations. That was the mistake. The empire had come to conquer the living. But humanity had prepared its dead to defend the future. The Guardian ships began rising. One after another. Then hundreds. Then thousands. The underground chamber became a storm of light. Ships climbed toward the surface. The ruined city shook. Alien soldiers ran outside. Varen followed. Above them, the sky was changing. Human warships were rising from beneath the ground. Massive ships broke through the surface. Others launched from hidden mountains. Others emerged from beneath oceans. And then, the planet's moon moved. Varen stared upward. The moon was not moving. Something behind it was. A structure larger than the moon itself unfolded from darkness. Varen's communications officer whispered. That's impossible. Varen looked at the display. No. He remembered Emily's father's recording. Don't make the mistake of thinking that makes them stronger. Varen watched the human structure unfold. No, he whispered. It's just something we didn't understand. Then every screen on every alien ship changed. One message appeared. Children are not targets. Varen stared. The Empire's invasion fleet had already begun powering weapons. He immediately opened a fleet-wide channel. Stand down. The order traveled through the command network. Nothing happened. Stand down. A commander answered. General, we have overwhelming force. Varen's voice became cold. That is an order. Sir, the human fleet is still. Stand down. Silence. Then another commander spoke. General, if we surrender now, the Empire will execute us. Varen looked at Emily. She was holding her little red rocket. Her father's final gift. The general closed his eyes. Then he said something that would later become one of the most controversial statements in galactic history. Then perhaps the Empire should have thought about that before it sent us here. One by one, the alien weapons powered down. The human fleet didn't fire. That was the part that confused everyone. The humans could have destroyed the invasion fleet. Instead, they surrounded it. They didn't attack. They waited. Varen looked toward Emily. Why aren't they firing? Emily shrugged. My dad said humans don't shoot people who stop fighting. Varen stared at her. Your father was a teacher. Yeah. That doesn't sound like something a military commander would say. Emily smiled. He wasn't. Varen looked back at the fleet. Then who commands them? Emily looked at the red rocket. I think. She stopped. What? I think my mom does. Varen turned. What? Emily pointed. One human ship was different from the others, small. Old. Almost primitive compared with the enormous warships around it. It approached Varen's flagship. No weapons. No escort. It transmitted a single message. Varen opened the channel. A woman's voice came through. Weak. Exhausted. But unmistakably human. Emily. The child froze. Her eyes widened. Mom. Varen felt every soldier on the bridge go silent. The voice returned. Emily, sweetheart, can you hear me? Emily grabbed the communication console. Mom. The woman laughed. Then she started crying. Varen slowly stepped away. He didn't want to intrude. But Emily wasn't finished. Mom. Dad said you were dead. Silence. Then the woman answered. I know. Emily looked confused. Why did he say that? Because if the Empire knew I was alive. The transmission broke up. Varen's technicians scrambled. Get the signal back. Static. Then the woman's voice returned. They would have found the Guardians. Emily whispered. So you knew. Your father knew. How long? A long silence. Since before you were born. Emily looked at Varen. Varen looked toward the stars. Suddenly the pieces came together. The parents. The hidden facility. The memory room. The fleet. The Guardians. The human colony wasn't a military base. It was a hiding place. A single family had been protecting one of humanity's oldest secrets. And when the Empire arrived, they had made one final decision. They trusted their daughter. Not with a weapon. Not with a mission. With a memory. The little red rocket. Emily looked down at it. Then the rocket's tiny light began blinking. Once. Twice. 3 times. Varen's eyes narrowed. Emily. She looked up. What? Did it do that before? She shook her head. No. The bridge became silent. Varen looked down. His technicians rushed toward the console. A new transmission was arriving. Not from Earth. Not from the Guardians. Not from Emily's mother. It was coming from somewhere beyond the edge of the system. The technician stared at the coordinates. General. What? We've received another signal. Varen's expression hardened. From whom? The technician swallowed. We don't know. The signal repeated. 3 short pulses. Then 3 more. Then the same sequence again. Emily stepped closer. She looked at the display. Her face went pale. Varen noticed. You recognize it? Emily shook her head. No. Emily. I don't recognize the signal. Then why are you afraid? She looked at him. Because for the first time since Varen had met her, Emily Carter looked like a child. She whispered 4 words. My dad used that signal. Varen stared at the screen. Your father? Emily nodded. Before the attack. Varen's blood ran cold. Where did it come from? Emily pointed toward the stars. There. The technician enlarged the location. Nothing. No ship. No planet. No station. Just empty space. Varen stared at it. Then something appeared. One tiny light. Then another. Then hundreds. Thousands. Millions. The lights began filling the tactical display. Not approaching Earth. Not surrounding the planet. They were already there. They had been there the entire time. Hidden. Watching. Varen looked at Emily. She looked back at him. Neither spoke. Then the little red rocket made one final sound. A voice came through. A human voice. Male. Calm. Familiar. Emily, if you're hearing this. The girl stopped breathing. Varen stared at her. The voice continued. Then you've probably met the people who came looking for us. Emily whispered. Dad. The recording continued. And if General Varen is standing beside you. Varen's eyes widened. Tell him something for me. Emily looked at him. The voice continued. Tell him the fleet he found isn't humanity's army. Varen's face went completely still. The human voice spoke the final words. It's our border patrol. Silence. The transmission ended. Emily stared at the stars. Varen stared at the tactical display. Millions of unknown lights were beginning to move. Not toward Earth. Away from it. Outward. Into the galaxy. Emily looked up at the general. General. Varen didn't answer. General. He finally